Last night we saw so much must-see basketball. The Kings and Warriors, the Wolves and Thunder, the Heat and Bucks, and the Rockets versus the Mavs were all stellar NBA games with really high intensity. The coaches loved it, the players loved it, I loved it, and I'm hoping you guys did as well. All of this was happening in the NBA in-season tournament, and this is why it needs to stay. First and foremost, we have the intensity and the competition factor. I feel like it's very obvious to see that these are not just your average regular season games. You could say it's the players' pride, the money involved, or just their image that drives these people to compete like it's the playoffs regardless of the intensity. It is way ramped up. From the in-season tournament games I've seen much more diving on loose balls, technicals called on players through passion, fans in the arena just being loud and screaming, and a lot more finite officiating. These games hold more weight than your regular season game, and it very obviously shows. Last night during the Heat and Bucks game, the arena was absolutely on fire as the Heat were down Jimmy and Tyler. Usually games where your two superstars or two all-stars, whatever you want to call them, aren't playing, two leading scorers aren't playing, the arena's a little bit dead. Last night, Heat fans were screaming at the top of their lungs on every single successful possession, and not just in the fourth quarter. We've heard tons of NBA players give their take on the intensity that we've seen in this game. Following the first in-season tournament game, Draymond Green had this to say: "We talk about this in-season tournament and it's a playoff game. It was a fun game to play in. The intensity level is there. It's a job well done to the NBA. Adding this type of excitement in November because there be some dark days in November, but you get games like this and you can appreciate it. It was great." Now, hearing this from one of the most passionate players in Draymond Green, love him or hate him, you guys know that's right. It is really just a good big thumbs up and a stamp of approval that someone who gives their all on any given night can kind of discern the difference between a playoff, a play-in, an in-season tournament, and a regular season game. Next, I'd like to tie in the emphasis of competition on the intensity. Coach Popovich had this to say about the competitive nature: "You have to understand all of these guys are very competitive. If you put something out there like this, it just adds to that competition." I feel like that is short and sweet, and he couldn't be more right. Even in those Rico Hines runs we see during the offseason out in Canada, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Losing means a lot to these men. It doesn't really matter if you're on a max contract or not. $500,000 is $500,000, and the idea of losing a tournament-style game is so deflating. And say you win and you're on a two-way contract or a vet minimum, that could be nearly a quarter or half of your salary paid in full right then and there. And with the point differential system, we're seeing players and coaches take it personally to heart. The next topic we're going to address, speaking of players and coaches, something that I don't think enough people are talking about it when it comes to the idea, is that this in-season tournament gives not only rookie coaches but rookie players a phenomenal advantage. Most guys that are young or coaches that are young in programs that aren't winning much, they don't get to see the light of playoff intensity until they're already established in the regular season, and then they get to the playoffs and it can be a shock to react to that level of intensity. We hear that a lot, that rookies don't really perform in the playoffs after they coast through the regular season. However, now it's different. Coaches and players that are rookies or young have the opportunity to see how their players, or if you're a coach themselves, handle these high intensity situations. Last night, watching Adrian Griffin, the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, I just saw a lot of different decision making and trust that he had in his young guys that ultimately led to a win on the road. On the Heat side of things, it's really good when you look at guys like Jaime Jaquez Jr. getting these minutes, who you know is a great basketball player, but you want him to feel comfortable when he gets to those playoffs. So now you're kind of having this game in an arena at home where you can barely even hear yourself think, and when the playoffs come around, it won't feel as new or as scary. It'll feel like you've been there and done this. All of this just leads me to say that the watchability for the in-season tournament has been through the roof, and the conversation around it has been honestly a majority positive. I haven't really heard people complaining. I haven't really heard people nagging, saying it's a bad idea. The one thing, and this is the last thing we're going to talk about critiques and what can make it better. The one thing that would make it better for most people is, funny enough, not even the actual gameplay itself, but the courts. I'm hearing a ton of people people say that the courts are eyesores, the courts, I don't like them, the courts are this, the courts are that. All I have to say is this. I believe they'll improve in time due to what Adam Silver said I believe it was the Celtics against the Knicks. Brian Scalabrine had Adam Silver courtside. He was doing his rounds, and he came out and kind of said this sentiment, stating that, listen, guys, the main reason the courts are so different is so that for when people are at the bar, when people are out at restaurants, when people are on the road, if they see these courts and think to themselves or say out loud, what the hell is up with my TV? Why does it look like this? Somebody who's maybe interested or knows about it will let them know, hey, listen, this is the NBA in-season tournament, this, that, and the other, and then the conversation aspect, it just kind of spreads through word of mouth. Now, that's not to say that these courts are going to look like this forever. I'm sure they are going to look different. However, they may tone them down a little bit, as it is pretty hard to see and kind of understand depending on what court. But what do you guys think? What did you think of this video? What do you think of the in-season tournament? Let me know in the comments below if you made it this far. I appreciate your support as always. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay happy, healthy, and blessed. Peace.